Okay, we'll go ahead and call to order the regular meeting of the Steering Legislative and Governmental Committee for Monday, December 7th, 2009. First item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our November meeting. Call Vice Chairman Adam Coggan for that.
Motion for the minutes as mailed out.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The minutes will stand approved then as presented. Next item on the agenda, we need to fill 4 vacancies on the Agricultural Board. Those vacancies, 4 of the 7 members who currently serve on the Agricultural Committee have terms that expire at the end of this calendar year. Those with expiring terms are Francis McDonald, Stan Vaught, Jack Black, and Commissioner Jack Black and Commissioner Anthony Johnson. By law, the 4 positions must be filled by 1 farm woman, 1 farmer, and 2 county commissioners. We have received applications from Stan Vaught, who is a resident of District 2. This, as indicated, would be a reappointment. He has served 3 years. We've received an application from Commissioner Jack Black. He too is a resident of District 2. That would be a reappointment. We have received an application from Francine Whitworth. She is a resident of District 7. Her application, this would be a new applicant. And we've received an application from Mr. David Nipper. He's a resident of District 15. He too is a new applicant. We've received an application from Commissioner Anthony Johnson. Of course, represents District 10, and this would be a reappointment. I think that's all the applications, right?
That's all I have.
Okay. Those are all the applications we have. And at this time, the committee give the candidates, applicants, an opportunity to address the committee with any comments that they might have. So we'll just go through these in order that they are in my stack. Stan Vaught, I think I see Stan here now. Commissioner Black, is there any comments that you want to make to
Yes.
the committee?
I'm Jack Black, Commissioner of the 2nd District. I'm in a rural area, and I have really enjoyed serving on this particular board, and it's been very helpful. It's been questions, been asked to me from my constituents about things that happens out there, and it's really helped me a lot and helped them also, and I just would appreciate serving back on the board again. Thank you.
Thank you. Next we'll call on Francine Whitworth. Ms. Whitworth, are you here? Don't see her. Mr. David Nipper.
Thank you. I was born and raised on a farm and worked the farm for about 25 years, and moved off the farm a few years ago to work in the city. On the farm, we milk cows, and raise crops, and basically was a self-functioning farm of over 250 acres. Like I said, I did that for roughly 25 to 30 years. I would like to get back involved in the agriculture part, looking maybe to get a farm in the near future. I thought this would be a good opportunity to help out the county, help out the citizens of the town and all that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nipper. Any questions for Mr. Nipper? All right, if not, then we'll go to Commissioner Johnson. Anything you would like to add? There he is.
I've been on the ag committee for several years. I'm currently serving as chairman, and would appreciate the opportunity to continue that capacity. There's a lot going on out there. People working out there, and very easy people to work with, dedicated people. Getting a lot done, and just want to continue that.
Okay, having heard from the applicants, we'll open the floor for nominations. One thing I do note, and you all correct me if I'm wrong, we have to appoint one farm woman. We only have one applicant for that position, as best I can tell. So if the committee is willing, maybe we can take that particular category first.
Well, and you only have two commissioners.
And
that
two
have
commissioners, so
applied.
we can do that, I guess, at the same time.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion that we appoint Ms. Whitworth as the farm woman and Commissioner Johnson and Commissioner Black as county commissioners on the board.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, then we will next move to the appointment of a farmer. And we have for that position then Mr. Nipper and Stan Vaught.
Definition of farmer, does that mean currently own a farm? Currently own a farm and working on a farm?
I haven't read their the technicalities of this, but that would be a basic assumption, but I shouldn't attest to that. Mr. Nipper agrees with that definition.
Yeah, I think it would. I mean, I didn't know it when I applied,
Right.
but I think it would be better served if one that did own a farm had it.
It would be good to be able to
Yeah.
ask Mr. Vaught questions. We know that he's kind of in the real estate business a little bit, but I'm assuming he's also a farmer on his family farm. And,
Yes, he does have a farm, and they do have crops on that farm.
which means that he probably qualified for the job because this is for reappointment. I'm not real sure that Mr. Nipper at this particular point in time would fit that one position that we
No,
would need.
and like I say, if the position was open, I'd be glad to fill it. But, I don't want to knock somebody out who's really qualified.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we appoint Stan Vaught for the
Second.
farm.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much. We will forward on to the full commission recommendations that Mr. Stan Vaught be appointed to the farmer position, that Mrs. Francine Whitworth be appointed for the one farm woman position, and that Commissioners Black and Commissioner Johnson be reappointed as in the positions of county commissioner. And again, Mr. Nipper, we want to recognize you and appreciate your interest in serving on county boards. Okay, we will move along now to vacancies on the community care board. We have one vacancy there, and we have received one application.
I only have one.
Okay. That application is from Francina K. Jernigan. Not sure what, she's in Readable, and this would be for a reappointment, having already served 6 years on that board. Attached to her application is a memo from County Mayor indicating that the regular meeting of the Community Care Board of Directors today, we voted unanimously to recommend to you the reappointment of Kay Jernigan to our board. Ms. Jernigan has been an active and vital member of the board, and it is our sincere hope that she will continue to serve. So I will at this time, though, Ms. Jernigan, if you're here, are there any comments that you have?
I've enjoyed serving on the board for the employees and the residents that live out there, especially in for the county, and I would like to continue to be on the board.
Thanks very much.
Mr. Chairman, so moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate your service so far and look forward to continue working with you. All right. Next, we need to fill an alternate vacancy on the beer board, and that is to replace William Murray who was serving as an alternate but was elected to a full member's position on the beer board, I guess, last month. Is that right?
Correct.
All right, and in that regard, we have received 2 applications. One from Mr. Jared Barrett, who's a resident of District 13. He is a new applicant. And an application from Mr. David Nipper, again from District 15. He too would be a new applicant. So again, at this time, we'll offer, just go in order here, Mr. Barrett, opportunity to address any comments that you might have to the committee.
Name's Jared Barrett, and I just decided to apply to be an alternate on the beer board at the time, and got the energy to do it. And appreciate your vote tonight if you feel that's okay.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Barrett.
Mr. Barrett, are you currently serving on any other boards?
No, I'm not, no, sir.
All right. Any other questions for Mr. Barrett? Okay, Mr. Nipper, anything you'd like to add?
Well, let me just say that, I was here last time and got to meet a lot of you. I really feel I could use, be of use on the beer board. I really like to have that, opportunity to help out the community and the board itself. Thanks.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for Mr. Nipper?
Same question. You serving on any other
No other board.
commissions or boards?
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I nominate both of them. We vote on one.
All right. I have a second to that.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. All right, then I guess Becky will have you call roll. And at this time, we're voting on either Mr. Barrett or Mr. Nipper for the position of alternate on the beer board.
Commissioner Black,
Nipper.
Commissioner Coggan,
Nipper.
Commissioner Farley,
Nipper.
Commissioner Jordan,
Barrett.
Commissioner Phillips,
Nipper.
Commissioner Sandlin,
Mr. Nipper.
Commissioner Rogers.
Nipper. All right, without Becky announcing that, I think it's apparent that Mr. Nipper, we're going to recommend you to the full commission for to fill that slot as an alternate on the beer board. Again, appreciate your willingness to serve, and that meeting will be on Thursday, December 17th, the full commission meeting. That's when we'll put that to the full commission. Again, Mr. Barrett, we know you're an applicant and eager to get involved with the county, and we remain eager to get you involved. So we look forward to seeing you again up here applying for some other positions. Thank you. All right. Next, we need to fill 2 vacancies on the Correctional Work Center Board. For those 2 vacancies, we actually fill 2 vacancies on the Work Center Board. We have 2 applications, one from Ms. Frances Mosby. She's a resident of District 13. District 13 is a popular district tonight. Commissioner Jordan. Her appointment would be a reappointment. And also Mr. John Taylor. He lives in District 8, and this too would be a reappointment, having served 4 years. So at this time, and I will say this, I do have a memo from Mayor Burgess, December 3rd. It states the terms of John Taylor and Frances Mosby on the Correctional Work Center Board of Directors are expiring. We would like to recommend that they be reappointed. Mr. Taylor and Ms. Mosby have been very active members of the board, and it is our recommendation that they continue to serve in this capacity. A motion was unanimously approved by the Correctional Work Center Board meeting earlier today that we recommend to the steering committee the reappointment of John Taylor and Frances Mosby to the Correctional Work Center Board. So, although there are just 2 applicants for 2 positions, we'll nevertheless call on those applicants to make any comments that they may have and go in order. Ms. Mosby, anything you'd like to say to the committee?
Thank you so much, Mr. Rogers. I did enjoy working on the board for, the last year. I finished out my husband's term. And very interesting, I enjoyed it, and it gave me something to do. As a matter of fact, they are putting down another board out there, a review board, and I enjoyed that. So I would appreciate being appointed again. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Mosby. And Mr. Taylor?
Yes, sir, I've been on this for a while, and we've been through some time building and everything like that, and I think we've done a pretty good job, and we'll keep doing it.
All right. Thank you, sir. Good to see you again. We haven't seen you up here in a while. You were a regular fixture for a while.
Yeah, I got put down for a while.
All right, well, glad you're back.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the recommendation of the correctional workshop.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, then those two, Ms. Mosby and Mr. Taylor, you all will be recommended for reappointment to the Correctional Work Center Board. Thank you very much. Appreciate y'all being here tonight. All right, we now need to announce two vacancies on the Public Building Authority. The terms of Dow Smith and John Wagoner are expiring. Next item on the agenda is the County Attorney Legal Services Agreement and Private Act. What I'd like to do is first, we'll take up the issue of the Private Act. As it concerns the Legal Services Agreement itself, my suggestion would be simply to alert the committee that is going to be an issue. We need to get that back out and dust it off. I really don't expect that we would have substantive discussion tonight about the content of the Legal Services Agreement, but we do need to be prepared in the next coming meeting, either in January or February, to begin serious work on that Legal Services Agreement. So we really will want to take up, I think, the Private Act tonight. So at this time, we'll go ahead and open the floor for discussion on the Private Act. I know several commissioners are here, and at the last full commission meeting, there was some discussion about an opportunity to speak before the committee. So I want y'all, the commissioners, to know that at any time y'all are welcome to come up here and address the committee. If there are any comments that you have, just let me know. Also, I know I've had email communication with Susan Allen from the Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance, as well as Mr. Steve Schrader. If there are any other representatives of the RNA here, I told Ms. Allen I would welcome them to come forward as well and make any comments that they might have. So at this time, unless the committee has any objection, I'll go ahead and ask any of the commissioners, are there any comments that you all want to make concerning the Private Act at this time anyway? Okay. Then we'll go ahead and call on Ms. Allen, Mr. Schrader, both of you, if you all want to come forward and address any comments that you all might have about the Private Act. Okay.
I'd like to thank the committee for this opportunity. We've had some contact with most of you. And we had about 10 people in our organization and from around the community that we've worked with to review the Private Act 2010. And we've come up with several recommended changes. You should have a copy of the our revision 3, and if you don't, then let me know and I'll give you a copy.
Mr. Mayor, do you have a copy of this?
Yes. In section 2, we would like to add a sentence, quote, "The county attorney shall be appointed or elected by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners." And that's a recommendation from Commissioner Key. He had voiced that on the floor of the county commission at the last county commission meeting, and we included that as in consideration to his wishes. Secondly, we wanted to arrange for a written agreement to be approved by a 2/3 vote of the county commission. And we felt that we wanted to have a 2/3 vote to put a bit more emphasis on the level of consensus that resided within the commission. The second change to, or the third change to section 2 was to delete essentially the last well, 3.5 lines, starting with "and entered into by Rutherford County, Tennessee," and ending "herein at length verbatim." And that language made a written agreement to be a part of the private act. And we felt that the private act should be a standalone document. And for that reason, we deleted that language. So that the second sentence of that section reads, "The terms, conditions, term of office, functions, and duties of the office of the county attorney shall be as set forth in a written agreement approved by a 2/3 vote of the Rutherford County Commissioners," period. The last changes had to do with Section 3, and we changed it to read, "The Rutherford County may enter such additional written agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services by a 2/3 vote of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners." The intent there was to make sure that the county commission was in charge of the expenditure of county funds. And the initial draft there did not necessarily indicate that the county commission was in charge of the fiscal issues for the county. Are there any questions?
Good question. Are there any questions?
I did not get that document.
Do you have another
I've only
copy
got
of the revisions, proposed revisions? Steve, my question was, as it concerns the 2/3 majority vote, the purpose of that suggestion is what?
The purpose of that was to strengthen to give an indication of a strong consensus by the county commission for the issue. Now, it's also been mentioned to me in discussions with yourself and other commissioners that other appointees are approved by a simple majority of the commission. And what we included here as a 2/3 vote requirement were the wishes of the members of the Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance and the other people with whom we spoke. But when when the rubber meets the road, the issue is going to be resolved by the county commission and the recommendations coming out of steering committee. So you know what our feelings are, and obviously there are questions about the 2/3 vote.
I've told you I struggle with that provision because of the fact that it would be contrary to what we do with appointing any other officials in the county, any board, commission member, even the mayor. We are elected by just a simple majority, and so that's why 2/3 seems unusual, I guess, and I don't know. I don't see a strong rationale for requiring that. So that's why I like the change. I like the changes, the other changes. It makes it more readable. I think it simplifies it. I agree probably with dropping the reference and incorporating the legal services agreement into the private act. It's that 2/3 vote provision that kind of derail on it a little bit.
Well, quite frankly, go ahead.
In Section 2, the 2/3 vote is for the written agreement, not necessarily the person that is going to be put into office.
But it's kind of, that's state law. It has to come back and pass by 2/3. It doesn't have to be in there because it's state
Well,
law.
the private act has to come back and be passed by 2/3.
2/3, fine. Isn't that what you just said, Susan?
No, I said the written agreement to which the private act refers, which is, the legal
The
services.
legal services agreement.
But wouldn't the written agreement be with whoever the county appointed as the county attorney?
Not necessarily. We squirmed around with the terminology of written agreement because what we wanted to do was to also give the county commission flexibility with regard to how you address the issue of the office of a county attorney. And we felt that the terminology written agreement would cover the concept of a legal services agreement, with some variations as you have already looked at, or that you would use the term written agreement to address a position description or a mission statement for the office of county attorney, followed by a series of position descriptions that you would approve and would reside, say, with the human services organization. So from that context, we figured that the terms written agreement would provide you with flexibility to sort out how you wanted to address the formation of a office for a county attorney. You wouldn't necessarily have to have a legal services agreement per se, in the context that's been presented before. You would have, I think, more flexibility, and we have done, you know, Mrs. Allen has looked at several different counties from the standpoint of how they do it. And that we felt that that choice of words would give you the flexibility that you might find useful.
I'm gonna go back, and I wasn't here on commission at the time, and Steve and Jeff, y'all may have been at that time, but when the finance department was put in place, hiring the finance director, which to me is just, the finance director would be just as important as the county attorney, because that person is dealing with quite a bit of money, that kind of with a responsibility. How was that? Y'all remember? Or were y'all on the commission at that time?
Just a simple majority.
Was it?
Yeah. We have nothing that requires anything except a simple majority for appointments.
It's across the board, a simple majority, but the thing, I mean, I think it's a good idea because, even though it crosses up what we've been doing, if we've been doing simple majority, really, we need to keep it simple majority. But, you know, something as important as a finance director or the county attorney or something like that, I mean, you would hope you'd have 21 votes on the commission floor in favor or against, you know, whatever you're trying to do. And that way it's a clear cut, we're doing the right thing, or no, this is a bad thing. But that's not reality. Reality is, you know, whatever the votes are and whatever someone thinks. So, you know, 10 to 11, that's what's going to happen. 11's going to get the majority. And I would hope, you know, in a position, you know, this important to the county and to the people in the county, you know, that we would have a, you know, a high vote. But I think it's something that y'all put in here that is on the same thought. Well, 2/3 vote would, you know, just make sure it's that way. But
And again, that's for the written agreement. The first line, which says the county attorney
Yeah.
shall be appointed or elected by the Rutherford County
But in-
Board of Commissioners, doesn't have anything about, you know, simple majority or a super majority, so.
Right, I think we were a little confused. It seems like the discussions that I've read in the emails and what we started out having was a 2/3 vote was needed to appoint the county attorney. That's not what this says.
That's correct.
Right. Okay.
That's correct.
That's what I think all of us were thinking it said. What this says, what you all put together, is that a 2/3 vote is needed to approve the terms and conditions, the legal services agreement. That's
Right.
what it says.
Well-
So we're not talking about the appointment of the county attorney.
Heretofore, I mean, the whole discussion with respect to this written agreement, it had a number of functions, a number of purposes, one of which was to appoint the county attorney. And it is in such doing that we did define all of the purposes and the duties and all of that and the compensation. All of that was one document. When we refer to a written agreement here, that written agreement will be an agreement that does just what I said. It appoints the county attorney. It also outlines in some detail his duties and his functions and that's going to take place and how we're going to compensate them. So I think we're just splitting hairs here. And I think when the private act, if and when it's put forth and if and when it's approved by the state legislature and when it comes back, it has to be ratified by a 2/3 vote. And I think when we have that ratified by a 2/3 vote and we bring it back to the county commission for approval, ratification, with the same resolution that requires a 2/3 vote to ratify that private act, we would put together with that the written agreement that's a part of what we're trying to do as far as the appointment. And those two things would be concurrent. They would both have the requirement for a 2/3 vote initially. Now, we could modify the commission could, the Board of Commissioners could modify at any time after that agreement if they so chose with a majority vote. But the first go-round is pretty obvious. It would be the only right thing to do this concurrently is to overlay those two things with the ratification of the private act and the attachment of the agreement that appoints the county attorney and outlines in great detail exactly what we expect out of that county attorney, whether it's the Coke firm or our in-house attorney at some point. So, I mean, I think we can move right along, and I don't think we've accomplished what everyone fundamentally wants to accomplish, I believe, without saying that we have to have a 2/3 vote on that county agreement. It may be at some point that we want to change that county agreement, and I don't think we ought to make it that strict in an interpretation of how you approve it. I don't think we should start the process of requiring 2/3 votes because we think this particular issue or that issue is more important than another issue or another office or appointment. That's just my personal opinion. Now, as far as taking off that last sentence like they suggested, really I think that is okay. I don't think it's really that critical, that sentence to be left in there. All we have to do is refer to the flexibility we have in approving the written agreement.
So in section 4, we're not approving a person. We're approving the act itself, and a 2/3 vote is required with what they just read. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is there a particular problem with the 2/3 vote on approval on the act?
Yeah, that's a requirement. That's a state law.
Okay.
We don't have a choice there on the private act. That standard has been set for us.
It's got to go down there by 2/3 and come back and ratify
Understood.
by 2/3.
I don't have any particular problem with 2/3 vote, but I just don't see how we're gonna do that to this one thing.
Section 3 deals with after the legal services agreement is in place, we're down the road somewhere and we want to hire an outside attorney.
Right.
According to this, it would require a 2/3 vote for us to do that, correct?
That's an issue we haven't discussed.
That's correct, right, Susan, Steve?
Right. I think the important thing there also is that it has to be approved by the county commission.
The county commission, I'm okay with that. The 2/3 vote, what if one group recommended hiring one attorney, someone else got up and said, well, I nominate and recommend that we hire this attorney, and all of a sudden you've got a 10, 11, and you can't get anywhere. That's the reason that a simple majority is it going to get us off square one and get us going someplace. State of Tennessee, if we lost one of our state legislators from Rutherford County, and this county was required to appoint someone interim to fulfill the remainder of that term, does not require 2/3. It's a simple majority.
Mhm.
And there may be 2 or 3 people vying for that. As long as you can get 11 votes, you're going to appoint someone. It's a pretty key, critical position there too, and it doesn't require 2/3 votes. Something like that, I could actually foresee it. I could foresee something like that happen. If the county commission ever got into partisan politics, I could see something like that happening.
Okay.
And that's kind of the issue that this concern that I have. It may not be that it would be an issue right now, but I'd hate to tie someone's hands down the road when the commission could make a decision and go on, and maybe not ever reaching a decision. I think Shelby County kind of got into that, if I'm not mistaken, Mayor. Maybe you remember.
I don't know.
They needed to reappoint, I think, someone to fill a state senate position just recently.
Yep.
And couldn't do it. One of them was a county commissioner, and they were deadlocked. They couldn't do it. And they would have never got 2/3 vote, not ever to do that, I don't think. So what would you do? I don't know. I just have this concern. Mayor Rogers, Commissioner Rogers and I talked a little bit about that. Excuse me for
Come with a pay increase as well.
Talked just a little bit about that, and I kind of share his concerns with that 2/3. I think with the commission having the opportunity to make a decision is to me is probably where we need to go with that. But I'm okay with everything else. It actually looks like kind of an improvement.
Well, we figured if you ever needed a private act written in the future, you can call on us.
Well, it was offered as a appointed department.
I think we could clean up that section 2 a little bit even simpler. We don't need to add a sentence. We could just say section 2, the terms, conditions, term of appointment, functions and duties of the office of county attorney shall be as set forth in a written agreement approved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, period. And then that's all we got to do.
Yeah.
And then strike the rest of that.
The terms, conditions.
Term of appointment. Another way, now, we've got a force in there that this is an appointment.
Of the office of the county attorney.
Yes, of the office of county attorney shall be as set forth in a written agreement approved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners, and just say stop.
Terms, conditions, and term of appointment, terms of appointment of the office of the county attorney, okay.
Are you taking out functions and
No, don't leave the function and duties.
Oh, I'm sorry, okay.
Leave all that.
Terms of appointment.
Functions.
Just strike the word office and put appointment, and then strike all of that, latter part of that sentence after the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and Mayor, I thought I had coming in, I think what we've all tried to do with RNA as well is get the power to the commission to be in control. And to not have to go back through this whenever we want to make a change next time. With that being said, one thought I had, and I apologize for not calling earlier, but I just had it on my way up here tonight. I get to drive a lot, so. Is section 3. In trying to make this private act as simple as possible, my thoughts have been, do we even need section 3 at all? With a very detailed, hashed out legal services agreement of which the county commission will have full authority over, we could make that legal services agreement say whatever we wanted it to say without having to go back to the state every time we wanted to change it.
Yep.
So my thought is we take section 3 out altogether. We don't have to worry about outside legal counsel on the state level.
Then we take care of locally.
We'll take care of it on our own board.
Yep.
Legal
Good
services
point.
agreement applies only to your county attorney. You're one on.
I have a concern about that.
This is your
I think
additional
that
people
in order,
outside
for other
counsel.
things.
yeah, section 2 deals with the appointment of the county attorney. Section 3 deals with our ability, and creates our ability to hire outside counsel.
For things not covered under the services of the county attorney for other needs. Is that what you're saying, John?
Yeah.
That's what
Yeah.
Becky is saying.
Yeah.
Your
They're
legal
saying there's some
services
issues
agreement.
that would not come under the functions and definitions of the services provided by the county attorney that we may or may not use an
And is
attorney
that where
for.
the TCA comes in, where if there's not, I may be wrong, but I think Ms. Allen sent us something from Sumner County, where there's something, a reference to TCA about if there's not anything, then the county mayor, county executive has the authority to hire.
That's if there's no private
If
act.
there's no
there's no
private
private
act.
act,
yeah. We
But
would
if
have
there's
a
no,
private act.
if there's something that comes up that the private act doesn't cover, that's the way I read it. I may have read it wrong.
No, I don't,
No,
that's
if
not
you-
the way I
It's
read
just
it.
there's not one at all.
If there's not one at all,
It's
that's.
either or.
Yeah, I don't know
By
exactly.
having the private act, then you've gotta have section 3 in there to mention that outside legal services. Correct?
Well, our written agreement certainly could contain within it the ability and a definition that would allow the Board of Commissioners to determine how outside legal service was would be determined when you didn't do it through the office of the county attorney. Now, right here, according to John and Becky, they're thinking about some other things that are independent of the county attorney agreement or their required services. Now, like what?
Well,
Give us
your-
one example for it.
The legal services agreement is specific to the COPE office, sets out his duties, his
Right.
responsibilities. So when you have outside counsel, that's going to be one lawsuit, and it's going to be a more specific agreement. So it would be a separate
Kind of like
agreement.
if there's someone at the sheriff's, an inmate sues at the workhouse or the sheriff's office, and we have to go out and get.
That usually goes to Nashville because
right.
it's federal.
So
court.
we would need this in here for.
And you would have a separate standalone
A separate agreement with that firm.
With that
To
attorney.
approve other agreements with other firms. Even though the written agreement might tell us who is authorized to get that done, they would still have a separate agreement.
And then by having this in here, but the commissioners would approve it, it would come back through steering, then through the county commissioners for approval. Is that what you're talking about it is?
Well, it could go through that process, or the written agreement could have enough definition on how one would allow another attorney to be selected independent of the quote, the county attorney.
And you could have a standard form, you know, if there's something that's not standard, it might come back, but.
Right. If we have to execute other documents with other attorneys, then we'd have to have Board of Commissioners approval. Now, you could authorize any number of people to do that. You could authorize the mayor to do that through the written agreement with Board of Commissioners' right of review and rejection on that. There are other ways to do this, but it's got to be done we can do nothing without Board of Commissioner approval. Through the written agreement, or through the contents of that written agreement, or through a separate written agreement.
Mayor, when you hire counsel now outside the county attorney, is there a written agreement or is it just a hiring where you just hire
Usually
somebody?
they send us a letter of engagement and we consent to that letter of engagement after the terms that they outline.
Do you expect in just every circumstance there's going to be a written agreement, or will there be agreements that are unwritten?
There'll be some written documentation. The attorneys would not, I don't think, would take on a case without at least some confirmation that they are hired.
Okay.
Now, I will tell you that every case that we put forward that, where we have cases filed by inmates and et cetera, that work through our insurance department and through those liability and those claims, we don't sign an agreement. We have a broad reaching agreement with the Lightner Williams firm to basically handle a lot of those cases. Okay, so every single one of those is not a separate agreement.
But there would be a written agreement for them, such as them,
We have
to
some
take
sort
care
of,
of those type of stuff.
yeah, they have agreed for a certain hourly rate to represent us as we, the county attorney, and I agree that they are more appropriate to handle it than the Cope firm. But this does give us a broader flexibility, and I don't think anybody has any problem with that. It is some questionable, Mr. Coggin, whether that actually has to be there. Can we cover that under the written agreement when and if it's approved? Possibly, yes, but I don't think this gives us enough flexibility to still be okay with this remaining, I believe.
You say you think it does?
It does. It gives us a broader bit of flexibility, quote, to allow us, maybe in a technical sense, to be okay. And it doesn't hurt us to leave it in there.
So
we could still accomplish everything through the written agreement, even with this section 3 remaining here, if we so choose, if the Board of Commissioners chooses.
I just remember one thing I don't think that it solves, unless we just call special meetings every time we need to enter into additional legal services, is one that I think Commissioner Rogers had and some of the rest of us did, is what happens, do we have to default on something, or do we need to call an additional special meeting in order to hire legal counsel? It doesn't give you, not the way I read it, doesn't give you the authority, or the leniency is not there to get in there before we have to default on something.
Well, if you look at this language, there's a lot of flexibility in this language. As the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may deem appropriate, you may deem appropriate to put a detailed process in place in this written agreement that we're going to develop, hopefully, that would allow a process to take place without having to do everything specific one-on-one. So there's some other options that I've been struggling with substantially. They're difficult, but that would still allow the Board of Commissioners to have the ultimate say on the approval of these people.
It could be covered under the legal services.
It could be covered under that written agreement for the appointment and definition of what the responsibilities of the county attorney will be. And the Board of Commissioners has still had control of that.
Under the legal services, if there's, excuse me, Adam, under the legal services agreement, potentially, if there's a time element involved, the legal services could cover you as the mayor, the executive branch per se, getting that process started
and then the Board of Commissioners approving it and still be okay with this private act.
Yes, we could put language to that effect there, and the Board of Commissioners would still have the ultimate authority.
I'm thinking that's what these guys wanted to do too.
Ultimately, you know, if you had to make an emergency decision, you would make it subject to the review and potential rejection if the Board of Commissioners chose to take that authority away. But I mean, that's another approach, and we can address that, and that's something we may want to consider when you start talking about that piece of the written agreement.
So I think what I'm hearing said here is in the one that you passed out, Mayor, on the private act here, if we were to strike out section 2 in this one, add section 2 in the RNAs to this, and leave section 3 as it is, and then work it out through the written agreement.
Well,
Not exactly.
I could even take it simpler than that.
That's what he said, put appointment in there.
Just strike the word office and put appointment, and then strike out all of the sentence after the word commissioners. And you accomplish basically the same thing they said.
Are you talking about?
That one right there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
What about in section 3, the last part there? I think we're putting may in there, and 3 is all we're changing different, and then may deem appropriate right there, the very last part of that.
Well, we could, instead of saying shall, you can put may, I think. Is that what they said?
Right.
I think that's fine. Change the word shall to may.
And put a period after commissioners, Board of Commissioners, at the end of 3, striking out may deem appropriate.
Oh. Well, you gotta change the text, you gotta change that structure a little bit more if you're gonna stop there.
Well, they took out an as there before the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners.
Well, you could just say the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may enter such additional written agreements. Well, and put period after services, and stop right there.
Yeah. That would work a lot better.
Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may enter such agreements.
Yep.
For the provision of additional legal services, period.
Okay. Because that still gives the commissioners the control.
Does that take out the may deem appropriate?
Yes, take out everything after legal services, period.
But isn't that what we were leaning on to be able to do some leniency with the legal services agreement?
Well, no, you don't. I don't think that doesn't hurt to drop this out. Your written agreement can still
function
as we need to.
Yeah.
He's just taking this.
Board of Commissioners may do anything they choose to do. That's just, we're just being a little bit specific here with.
Well, before we get a motion on the floor with these twists and turns, is we wanna.
I think that's right, Steve. Let's just run through it.
Yeah.
The first paragraph's okay, second paragraph's okay, third paragraph's okay, and fourth paragraph's okay.
With what we just did.
Yeah, and section 1 is the same in both.
Yes.
So section 1 appears to be okay. Is that right, John?
I agree.
And then section 2, how does that read? Becky, do you have all that down?
I think so.
Good.
The county attorney shall be appointed or elected by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners. The terms, conditions, term of appointment, functions, and duties of the office of the county attorney shall be as set forth in a written agreement approved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners.
No.
It's that way she's using their paragraph, which is okay. It's no big deal. I was just using what we
I don't have.
We're just gonna use the
this.
original there, but just mark out office and put appointment, I think was what.
Actually, Steve, I kind of prefer that sentence that they've drafted.
Sentence?
I do.
Okay.
It makes it clear. I go back to what Commissioner P was. He had big concern about making it absolutely clear that the Board of Commissioners was responsible for the appointment of the county attorney. I think that sentence takes that out. I mean, it makes it perfectly clear.
Well, it says it at the very end of that, approved
I
by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners.
I agree with you. I said that last time, but
Okay.
I know that I think we're just completely eliminating
understand.
any concern. Belt and suspenders, right?
Gotcha.
So read that again. Where we are right now.
Section 2, the county attorney shall be appointed or elected by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners. The terms, conditions, term of appointment, functions, and duties of the office of the county attorney shall be as set forth in a written agreement approved by the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners.
That's good.
I agree, that's better than those over there, you're right.
More better.
Okay, are y'all ready to move on to section 3?
The Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may enter such additional written agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services.
All right, everybody's good with that? Okay, I think we're all good with section 4. No issues with section 4.
I still don't think section 4 gives us the leniency we need, but
Section
3, I'm sorry.
3.
Section 4 is good. I'm good. But you're the lawyer.
Yes.
But this is your night gig, so I'm kind of worried.
Okay, well, I'll, Steve and Susan, I want to express our appreciation to you all for your interest in this issue and helping in the comments that you've made. It's been very helpful. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you and the other commissioners for making this county the way it is. It's a great place to live. And it's that way because of the people.
It's a lot because of you two guys and some of the organizations that you work with and some of the citizens that you work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're always happy if we can have a positive input. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I want to go back to Commissioner Williams, Commissioner Daniel, Commissioner Johnson. Those are the county commissioners that are present. Having now heard the debate, any comments that you all would like to make? And y'all are welcome to come forward.
The only thing that I have is, thank you for re-looking at this. I just thought after the first draft, it seemed like kind of a hollow shell and needed to have a little more, a few more changes to it. So I think it's good.
Cool. Very good.
I just like you like the idea that you reviewed this and did change it and it shows the people that trust in us to do our job. It shows them that we do our job. We don't ignore the public, we listen and try to appease. And that's what you've done tonight. You've simplified what you had and makes it easier for everyone to understand. And what they'll be satisfied with.
All right.
Okay, now, got one little picky point here, and you may totally disagree with it, or you may agree with it.
Well, you may need to come up if it's something we need to discuss.
I'll be right up there.
Yeah, just so they can hear you
Right.
well, Jim.
Make sure everybody can hear you out in TV land.
Yeah, well, I think they could anyway, Steve, but, you know, maybe I'm fooled. I'd like to clarify just two things. One is, we now have an agreement, though it's not written down, with Jim Cope to continue under the present mode of operation, excuse me. But at the end of that 2 years, then we have a separate thing coming in. And the concept, as I understood it from the last meeting of the full commission, was that we would get to the point where we would have an in-house legal counsel set up, perhaps. And if that's what we want to do, there are some things I'd like to suggest. In section 2, where it says set forth in a written agreement, why would we need a written agreement rather than a regulation adopted by the commission? And the reason I'm saying that is we're not going to negotiate with every attorney about all the provisions of everything. We need to get it down to a boilerplate. Federal government doesn't hire them generally that way. The state government doesn't either. You don't have guys sitting in the AG's office drawing down a retainer and then other fees also. But that's a different method of operation. And as long as Jim's doing the job in the way that he's always done it, then we're okay with what we've got. And all we need to do is figure out what we're going to do afterward. And therefore, this thing.
Wait just a minute, Commissioner. I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. I'm not on the same page with. I'm thinking this right here is the private act that we're sending forth. He's still doing business as usual today and for a 2-year time period, or until we get this back and we're getting ready to work on, the county attorney's legal services part that we're getting ready to do. I don't.
Exactly my point.
Okay.
But you see, when we do that, until this comes back, this thing is worded well. I have no complaint about it at all. Pass it. But I just wanted to suggest that in this place where we say a written agreement, it would be just as strong or stronger to say a written policy approved by, because the other way, it sounds like we're going to negotiate every time.
Let me say this, Commissioner, respectfully.
I see what you're saying.
We will not be able to put in place an in-house staff attorney without at least some fundamental agreement. In other words, you won't get this on an at-will employment arrangement. We're going to, this is my judgment, this is my opinion, just like your opinion.
Well,
I think it'll take at least an employment agreement of 4 to 6 years for you to get that person to come to provide this function. So it's going to be an agreement. It might be a very simple agreement, but it's going to be some sort of an agreement, or we're not going to be able to affect the attraction and the ability to put in place the kind of attorney that we think we need.
but the dichotomy we've been fighting with is the need, as things presently sit, for trial counsel as well as a separate trial counsel. In these big cases, that's what we've had. And if we have an in-house legal counsel, we should be trying to head that off. Absolutely. If you saw what the lady up in Gallatin is doing as their law director.
The first, that legal law director out there, the first term was a 6-year term.
Yeah, and then they cut down to 4.
They had an agreement with that attorney to provide those services for the first 6 years. So there will be some sort of agreement for this, quote, staff attorney that we get initially. And it'll probably be ongoing. It won't be like hiring an individual employee. It's going to take a document of some sort that says what our commitment is and what that person's commitment is.
On an experimental basis.
Yes, sir. So I think the terminology here that says written agreement is very appropriate to what we will do when we go to an in-house staff attorney.
Well, I'm laying the foundation now. When it comes back, we'll see how it looks then.
Absolutely.
Because I changed my mind about some of the things that we said the other night. I'm just wanting to be sure that
I appreciate that.
Leave no stone unturned.
I don't think we'll have to change our private act to hire an in-house staff attorney.
No, I think, like I said a minute ago, pass it.
Okay, there we go.
Mr. Chairman, I want to make a motion, and then I've got a couple questions.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion of the private act of the 2010 chapter here that we're going to send to our delegation as we changes that we've made tonight, that we've already read. If we need to read those again, that's fine, but I'm good, and that's my motion.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Okay, further discussion.
My question is, but I want to get that out first, because okay, private act, good. Mayor's comment threw me off on something. The 4 to 6 year.
Yeah.
Help me out there.
To attract an experienced, qualified attorney that's already practiced and got enough experience to really be some real benefit. They're not just going to walk over here and us have the right to discharge them at will. They're gonna want some assurance that if they perform according to some set of standards, that we're going to at least employ them for some period of time, where they're not gonna leave a practice they've already established.
Okay.
Well, I think
That's a little bit better than it's gonna be 4 to 6 years from now before
And
we
I'm
get
saying,
an attorney.
depending on how strong and how qualified
I got
and how
you.
experienced this person is, it could be 4 to 6 years. But you would still have some outs. Both parties would probably have some outs, but it's going to be some agreement that will have to be carefully structured and very thoughtfully put in place.
Do you know how Ms. McGannon was hired by the city?
No, Mr.
What
Tom.
kinds of terms?
No, Mr. Tom Reed was there years before she came.
Well, I know.
And she came as an attorney
Give me an
underneath him, I
assistant first,
believe.
an assistant, yeah.
Yeah, she came as just a staff attorney. So those are a lot different. But the person that we're going to pick to be our lead person will be critical in that we get the right person with the right ability, or else we'll be outside every time you turn around.
See, the city, when they made it full-time, Tom Reed was the part-time attorney. Tom Reed come full-time, and I don't know how they worked that out. But more than likely, they probably worked out something comparable to what the mayor's talking about, for someone to give up, you know, they gotta enhance them or entice them in some way for a good attorney to come on board, you know, instead of somebody right out of.
Usually
law
when they're
school.
taking that kind of a thing and they've been out in private practice, it's gonna be a question of security. So salary rates and tenure and those things will be heavy.
Right.
Some of the county gave 6 years as the first time around.
And then they shrunk it
Person
back.
to establish the practice, hire the staff. There'll be more than one attorney, obviously, in this office, that kind of thing. And then if in that 6 years, they had better have performed as expected.
Right.
And then after that, it was 4 years, was it not?
I believe it was 4 years.
Okay. It's considerable risk for everybody. And I
Yes.
think you got that attorneys and staff and office and everything is entitled to an opportunity to perform, I think. I don't see anything wrong with it, but that's further down the line.
Yeah, right now, I just wanted to make it clear that what we're doing is for the hereafter and not for the right now.
Right.
Well, I think
Thank
everybody,
you.
I think everybody agrees that we're moving towards making a full-time law department for the county.
I just heard the mayor one way and comprehended it another way, so I just wanted to make
Easy
sure.
to do.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. The motion and the second was actually to take this revision 3 as we've amended it. Correct, Steve?
Yes, sir.
This one.
As we've amended it,
As
yes.
we've amended it. All right, now, is any further discussion?
Just clarify that section 3 deal again. I don't have a problem. Why do we need to change it from where it was originally? I mean,
Well, the changes we made don't really,
Rutherford County, here's how it was. Rutherford County may enter such additional written agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services as Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may deem appropriate.
all we've done is take off the may deem appropriate, everything else is the same.
Well,
And has
actually,
unchanged mate shall
you
as may.
changed it from Rutherford County
At the front.
entering,
Oh, yeah.
the way it reads, Rutherford County would enter into this agreement as approved by the commissioners as they deem appropriate. So actually, that does read a little better if you leave it that Rutherford County will enter into this agreement, because your Board of Commissioners don't
Approves.
enter into agreements.
I guess that's where I was.
That's true. The Rutherford County may enter such a written additional.
Mhm. And then put that
If we
back
just
on
change the
back
shall to may and leave everything else the same.
And the Board of Commissioners still ultimately has to approve it. I mean, that's in that sentence.
Read the thing again.
Rutherford County may enter such additional written agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services
That's
as
not,
the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may deem appropriate.
that's not part
You
of the
don't-
motion though. That.
You just want it to say
We
Rutherford,
flipped it a while ago and said Rutherford Board of Commissioners may enter such
but now we're
additional.
taking that Board of Commissioners out
Well,
because
that's
it's
not my
Rutherford
motion.
County
Well, you
that.
can't, the word enter would be incorrect. The Rutherford County Board
Well,
of
he wants
Commissioners
Board of
may
Commissioners up there.
may approve such additional written agreements with private attorneys.
Can the Board of Commissioners do that?
They don't enter into an agreement, but they can approve them.
Right.
That's right. I agree with the suggestion that Becky has, and that is, the way, Steve, your motion is that Rutherford County Board of Commissioners entering into the agreement, but that would be inappropriate. The Rutherford County actually enters into the agreement, but the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners approves that agreement.
Leaving Rutherford County Board of Commissioners down at the end like we had it.
Got it.
Okay, well,
As they
I need to
deem
back up then, so
appropriate.
I need to withdraw that motion.
I'll withdraw my
All
second.
right. So
Well,
we'll
no, you're
put,
still making changes to it. My motion is to approve the
well,
private
instead
act
of
with the
amended and
changes
everything, let's
tonight.
just get it one
Well,
right way.
It will be.
Don't have to amend it.
But section 3, Becky, will read how?
Rutherford County
County
may
may.
enter such additional written agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services as the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may deem appropriate.
So we're leaving as in.
Well, it
Rutherford
reads better
County
that
Board
way.
of
You gotta
Commissioners.
put the word "the" in there.
Period. Period after Commissioners.
No.
May deem appropriate.
period.
Well, I thought that's what we just talked about a while ago, is taking that
No,
out.
you're taking the county is the one that enters into agreements.
And the Board of Commissioners commission.
So you're saying the county is going to enter this additional written agreement if the commission approves it,
Deems it appropriate.
if they deem
If you
appropriate.
don't like may deem appropriate, just says as the Board. of
Okay, so section
Commissioners
3, all we
approves.
changed is may.
No, well,
Yes.
I did have Board
Yeah,
of
from what you're-
Commissioners at the
From what you're looking
front.
at, yes.
That's right.
Well, we talked about that. I thought we was settled.
Well, we
Sorry,
didn't.
I'm just being difficult.
Yeah.
But I think that's a good catch because that word enter is not appropriate.
We had a hand up,
Well, you
Mr.
enter.
Chairman. I just want to make sure we're all on the same page.
Okay.
Which enter?
Ms. Allen?
Can I read it for you?
Sure.
This is
Going from the Rutherford Neighborhood Alliance version, if you had Rutherford County may enter such additional agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services by a majority vote of the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners. If you don't want to have the.
I don't think we have to have the vote in
We
there
don't
at
have
all.
to have the vote in there. It's
Yeah.
just as approved by the Rutherford
Yes.
County Board of
Okay.
Commissioners. Either way works.
As approved.
Okay, so I put back on the floor then the motion of this revision back under section 3, leaving it as is, the original changing shall to may, and that's all we're changing in 3 then.
No.
2 stays the way we changed it.
Yes.
That wasn't the only one. We put in as approved by. Steve, read that, Becky.
Rutherford County may enter such additional written agreements with private attorneys and law firms for the provision of additional legal services as the Rutherford County Board of Commissioners may deem
Yeah,
appropriate.
that's what we got.
I thought we said as approved by the Rutherford County Board of
That
Commissioners.
wasn't
Okay.
I never had that.
All right, sorry.
Either one say the same thing,
Yeah,
so
they
it's
do.
whichever way you like it.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All right, we have a
Are you
motion
happy?
and a second.
For real.
Feel like we got a consensus here.
You wanted it out, now we got it all back in.
All right, one more change. Any other discussion?
I know, you just had a baby, I know.
If not all in favor,
Been up all night.
if not all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion.
You've approved this, and I would like for Becky to have this typed up as she thinks it's supposed to say, and put this in your boxes, and you to review this before the commission meeting.
Okay.
In all
so that we-
21,
And all 21 of them.
I'll
everybody-
email it to whoever.
So that we can,
Could I suggest that you mail it along with the agenda?
Okay.
and everyone will get it that way. We do mail the agenda out.
Put Merry Christmas on top of it.
Yes.
I'll tell Vicki to do
We'll
that.
put it in the agenda.
We're just about to all of their business. Before we get there, something I should have done before I got to this point, something I should have done before the meeting started. We had two visitors tonight from the Youth Leadership Rutherford program. They attend Cedar Grove High School. It's Catherine Nash and Aaron Griffin. So I don't know if they probably were eager to get out of here, but
They have left the building.
They've left the building.
They were mad about Section 3.
They're cured of any leadership.
Sign those cards after the
All right,
meeting, yeah.
we will now move on to any other business. I do have one item, but and it involves a Tennessee bottle bill, which I think I've sent an email to you guys about. Is there any, before we get to that, any other business that we need to address?
I'd just like to recognize Anthony there as the new agriculture director.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Yeah.
I'm just glad to be my first time coming to a steering committee, and so I'm learning a lot.
You'll never be back.
Don't play basketball with him. Got a heck of a three-point shot.
He's a shooting guard. All right, well, good. Well, be sure to appreciate you and look forward to working with you very much. Thank you for being here tonight.
Good morning.
All right, and
Did you want to finish with the bottle bill?
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, then I would like just a minute or two of discussion. I believe the next time that we meet with our legislators, is that correct?
That's right.
I would like to approach a subject with them on that night, which I guess, we can do. We got freedom of speech, but on online sales taxes, which costing hundreds of thousands of dollars being lost, certainly. And it is, I think, the avoidance of the online sales tax also hurting citizens, hurting our budget, hurting our tax collections, and certainly hurting various businesses. This is a nationwide problem, of course. It is being attacked in other states, Rhode Island, Texas, North Carolina, Kentucky. Any thoughts from any of you or the mayor on that? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. That's a point that's been under discussion for a number of years now. And there's an initiative called the Streamlined Sales Tax program that's been, a number of states have joined together to put together a system whereby you can collect sales tax at the point of sale. And we're one of several states participating in that. All the states know how to do this, but politically they can't make it happen. And the state of Tennessee has already passed this streamlined sales tax law. But every year they simply roll the implementation forward again and again and again. There is a difference in opinion between the municipalities and the counties as to who's going to win this ability to capture these taxes, whereby now every house pattern or lumber package that's sold at Haynes Brothers goes to the city of Murfreesboro, those sales taxes that are collected, whereby if you change to this process of streamlined sales tax, the delivery point of that lumber package, if it were in the county or if it were in Smyrna or in Laverne, that would be the place that would actually get the benefit of the local option sales tax. So all of that has created quite a political bit of discussion. This is something you should bring up with your legislative people when they come and see where they stand and where we're going with this. And we can't, until we get that in place and get that straightened out, we can't take care of the internet sales tax. Okay, all of that is linked together. The technology is already there. They know how to make this happen, they know how to make it work. They can collect it by zip code, and there's just not a will to do it yet.
Well, there is down here on this end of the table.
Okay.
I'm not being a state legislator, but I'm going to bring that up on that night.
Okay.
And we'll just see what they say. The latest figure that I read this weekend is nationwide is $20 billion
It's a huge
of
number.
taxes, and I would suggest that that's low. Now, what it is, and we're always looking for revenue streams, and rather than worried about guns and bars and roadkill, maybe we might suggest to them that they help us solve our problems, which frankly they have not done, as all of you know,
Until
as far
all
as
the
the tax is concerned.
until all the states get together and agree to do this, there's not going to be enough pressure on the federal government to make this a federal law. So I mean, it's billions just within our state that we're missing. And they know how much it is. The state knows. They have projections on how many $1 billion it would put here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Commissioner. Okay, you guys, I got back November 27th, a letter from Marge Davis, who's the coordinator with Pride of Place, which is a comprehensive litter and recycling solution made possible by a Tennessee bottle bill. And this organization supports legislation that probably will be pending before the legislature this coming legislative session that provides for essentially a 5-cent deposit on glass, plastic, and aluminum beverage containers. That is that apparently, as I understand it, 5 cents would be added to the purchase of any beverage container, and then when that beverage container is brought back for recycling, then the purchaser or whoever's bringing the bottle back would be entitled to that 5-cent refund. I've forwarded to you all the letter, a flyer that goes along with it, a suggested text for a county resolution in support of the bottle bill, and also some frequently asked questions, some other information. We've had a long discussion already tonight, so we may not be eager to jump into this discussion tonight, maybe for another different day, but I wanted to put that out there to see what the committee's will is with regard to this particular suggested resolution.
One thought, if you don't mind, Gary.
Go ahead.
Mr. Chairman, the way I understand it, in most of these, the redemption for the 5 cents or however much it is wouldn't go back to the place that they purchased it. There would be these centers established that you would take them to, which makes it much more acceptable to the retail industry, the grocery stores and other places, because they don't want to be in charge of doing all this stuff, and we can't really blame them. So with these redemption centers, I think is what they call them, where you take this stuff back and it's weighed and you get some type of a credit or something like that, makes it a little bit more acceptable, I think. And that's the reason this thing is beginning to take off, I believe. It has a lot of merit. Would this be better kind of going through Public Works and with some type of recommendation to send back to us?
Well, that's a good thought. I mean, I hadn't thought about that. Public Works meets tomorrow night. We could expose them to this as well. I've got enough of these little handouts to tell them to.
I'm thinking we may be overstepping our bounds. I think recycling and everything kind of goes through the Public Works Department.
Yes.
I'd like for them to say, well, yeah, we think it's a good idea. You guys go ahead and take a look at a resolution that we may be able to adopt. But I'd like for them to. I'd kind of like for those guys to be in the loop too.
Is the biggest benefit that I see, y'all correct me if I'm wrong, is recycling?
The biggest benefit is you reduce the amount of stuff that goes to the landfill.
Right.
It's just that simple.
And
This is
garbage is on the
huge.
road.
These are some items right here.
You'd have people picking up garbage on the road.
Less litter.
Right. These some items right here is your biggest points of litter, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember back when I was a youngster, my dad said I need to sack some groceries and work at the local grocery store and get off the milk barn, for a little bit in the afternoons. And one of my first jobs was doing the bottles, Coke bottles and stuff. But everybody did it. You brought them in, exchanged them for another. And you had people picking them up. You never saw glass returnable bottles out anywhere. I mean, and that's why they had that deposit on them. And you take a look at a number of states that have deposits on their cans or bottles or whatever, and they don't have this issue. So I think the key that you said right there is if you have a point like that, redemption center compared to a grocery store or something, because it's going to be a lot of return. So
Actually, the more I hear about it, the more I like it, actually. And I'm just kind of wondering, since the Public Works, it deals with trash collection and all other kinds of stuff, it may be appropriate that they at least say, well, we think it's a pretty good idea too. And if it would require some type of resolution to the state, it probably wouldn't need to come back here for that. But I'd like for them to give us a heads up. You guys are not wasting your time by going ahead and doing with this. That way you'd have a committee recommending it, and then we can move on like that. But I really think it has a lot of merit.
we need to put it in form of a motion and to send it to Public Works.
Let's do that.
So move.
Second.
All right, have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Can that happen tomorrow night?
I will bring it up under other business.
Got your motion saying forward to Public
of them.
Works for review and opinion with return to steering if resolution required. Correct. Okay.
All right, and one last thing, as Commissioner Jordan indicated, our meeting with the legislators, our annual meeting with the legislators is scheduled for our next regular meeting, January 4th. So I think we're already talking about some issues we can debate with them. Look forward to seeing you all then. This will be one. Yeah, this will likely be one over here. All right, any other business? We are adjourned.